Well, I want to get to underreported stories as well. Jan?
For me, I mean, my kids hear me rant about this every day, so I may as well tell you guys. It's the crushing impact that our COVID policies have had on young kids and children. By far, the least serious risk for serious illness. But I mean, even teenagers, a healthy teenager has a 1 in a million chance of getting and dying from COVID, which is way lower than dying in a car wreck on a road trip. But they have suffered and sacrificed the most, especially kids in underrepresented, at-risk communities. And now we have the Surgeon General saying there's a mental health crisis among our kids. The risk of suicide attempts among girls now up 51% this year. Black kids nearly twice as likely as white kids to die by suicide. I mean, school closures, lockdowns, cancellation of sports. You couldn't even go on a playground in the DC area without cops scurrying, shooing the kids off. Tremendous negative impact on kids, and it's been an afterthought. Yeah. It's hurt their dreams, their future, learning loss, risk of abuse, their mental health. And now with our knowledge, our vaccines, if our policies don't reflect a more measured and reasonable approach for our children, they will be paying for our generation's decisions the rest of their lives. And that, to me, is the greatest underreported story of the past year.
And I don't see it being talked about anywhere. We talked about it first. I posted that link about the decrease in IQ points. Yep. And then we started to talk about it there slowly. And now it's trickling into the mainstream media where they're forced to talk about it.
And who's impacted? It's not rich kids.
It's not middle class kids. It's all of our kids.
That was a fantastic clip. That CNN clip was fantastic.
The poor kids are the ones who get hit the hardest. They can't do supplemental.
It's
they don't
not
have
just that.
Option.
Don't minimize what this is. This is every child.
I agree,
it disproportionately affects.
Hit? Yes.
The data was that it's disproportionately affecting minority kids.
Yes.
Okay, and that could be because of the sociology of the parents. But Jason, you can also have rich colored parents. Okay, Jay.
So I'm not just saying colored parents. I'm saying all poor kids, white poor kids who are in public school.
All poor kids.
They're getting hit the hardest.
Minority kids of all kinds. But frankly, the point is it's all kids of all kinds. Okay?
Yes.
So we don't need to sub-segment this to make this issue go away and seem smaller than it is. We have literally put tens of millions of children at risk because of our behavior.
Yes. I'm going to agree with you, and I'm not trying to minimize it or make it a smaller issue.
Your point is that none of the smaller audiences or smaller new media folks on YouTube or their podcasting have enough breadth to really make an impact by talking about this topic? Is that what you're saying? That the mainstream media is needed to hit the broad base?
No. What I'm saying is very specific. The people on YouTube cover what the people on YouTube want. Okay. Right. The people on podcasts cover what they want. They're all very narrow specialists.
You mean they're narrow niche?
Okay.
Yeah.
There is no set of incentives that then threads that together and then amplifies.
Right.
In the absence of those two mechanics, those are software mechanics and economic mechanics that need to get built in. What we lose is signal.
Right.
That, in my opinion, right now, over the last 2 weeks, is the single most important signal. And it is nowhere except for this one clip on CNN and the discussion that we had 2 weeks ago.
Because the YouTube, I just want to be really clear on this, because YouTube
is full of React videos and video games, which is fine.
And the consumer,
but what it's missing is talking about this issue and actually holding people accountable. And who should be held accountable? In every single county where it was basically a board of education that was trying to shut these kids out, who stood up and who told that story? Nobody did. And if it was trying to be told, it wasn't amplified correctly enough. And so what happens is after 2 years of damage to all of our kids, tens of millions of kids, there's a couple of fissures. One fissure was on this podcast, which I'm very proud of. Another fissure was this one few minute clip on CNN.
CBS. It was a CBS.
Whatever.
It was a Sunday show, yeah.
But my point is, these are the things that really matter, and we haven't figured it out yet.
What you're saying, and I think it's a really important point, is that as a YouTuber, as a podcaster, you pick your niche that you can hit home on, and you hit home over and over every week. But no one says, I'm going to broadly talk about the issues of our time and make sure...
No, that's not true. We do.
We do, but it's a small subset. But I think the bigger picture here is, and I'm going to dovetail with what Zach
there's more than 1 million people a week that listen to this. We've far exceeded MSNBC's average viewership. We're probably going to pass, most CNBC shows and some CNN shows by the end of next year. So we will do it. But there's not enough. There needs to be more of us.
We're an opinion show as much. We're not a traditional reporting show, right? In the sense that like go out, gather data and facts and present them, or do you disagree with that?
Not that they do that anyway.
I disagree with that. I disagree. I actually think we do a decent job of filtering for the truth. And the reason we're able to do that is because of our friendship. We can hold each other accountable and call out the bullshit when we see.
Because we don't have incentives. We don't have anything to lose, right?
I don't think there's an incentive here for us. But I want to build on something that Zach said. See, it is very hard for the media to hold this dissonance because they're saying everybody needs to shelter in place. COVID is, this huge thing. They put the death count, they put the case counter up. They won't talk about deaths in ICU. They won't talk about who's getting COVID because they have an incentive to get more ratings through COVID or Trump. And they took that. And then it's a narrative violation or it's cognitive dissonance if they say at the same time, everybody needs to shelter in place. This thing is really deadly, but we should send our kids to school. So they couldn't take that position, Sachs and Chamath. They couldn't take the position that, kids could go to school because that would go against, hey, everybody needs to shelter in place. And they picked, I think, COVID is this super deadly thing. Everybody has to shelter in place over children.
I think you're giving them way too much credit. I think what happened was they had a position to re-aggregate lost power. And they took it.
That's real sinister.
And they did not think about the true consequences. And it may not have happened at any one individual reporter level, but when it ladders up to the editorial board and the decisions of the people who run the mastheads of these organizations, they made the decision that currying and organizing power was more important than shining a light to do the right thing. Specifically, in this case, the thing that aggravates me the most is around our kids.
Yeah, I think they were going for ratings. But anyway, we can keep debating it.
Well, one thing we can say for sure is they created a hysteria. Whether their motivation was ratings or a power grab or political advantage, there's probably all the above. But the bottom line is they wanted to create a hysteria. And they've been pumping COVID fear porn into the population for the last 2 years. But my prediction, like I said, is that it all flips next year. Why? Because there's an election, and the way the media figures out what its narrative is going to be is they start with the election result they want, and then they reverse engineer the narrative that they think is going to help achieve that election result. And if it means contradicting what they said yesterday, they will memory hole what they said yesterday in order to get on board with the new narrative. That is what's going to happen.
I do think you're right, but I think I don't want to lose this thread because this has nothing to do with COVID. Meaning COVID was a symptom of this. But if you really thought that the organized mainstream media had the right to be, has a purpose to be on the right side of justice, where were they when school boards were stripping out, advanced placement programs for kids? Or where were they when they were shutting kids out? Or where were they when they were engaged in 8-hour debates?
They can't go against the unions.
Whether a male can be on a committee, because he's gay, but he's not, black. I mean, these were the issues that stopped our children from literally walking into the classroom every day.
Well, I mean,
those stories were not told, and they didn't happen just in one place. They happened all across the country. And this is where those folks had a responsibility because they also probably had kids and they didn't do a thing about it. That one issue for me really drives me crazy.
Let me ask a probing question here. We assume we're going to get out of this, pandemic in 2022. Knock on wood, no more variants. What is the obligation and technique, the strategy to solve what we did to these kids? And I just want to put it out there. We don't have to answer it now, but I think we could spend an episode.
That's a very difficult question, J. Cal, that I think you need sociologists and psychologists and educators.
We also need entrepreneurship and ideas, and we need to have a dialogue so we can bring them on. But if we're going to spend all this money on Build Back Better, how about we build back the 20 lost fucking IQ points that these kids have, and then we do something about the depression and anxiety they have?
Hallelujah.
Jason, we're never going to get there because the teachers' unions won't even acknowledge that learning loss exists.
I think we need to break the teachers' unions, period, full stop.
Oh, let me make a prediction in that regard next year. There's going to be a ballot initiative in California for school choice. And the way it's going to work is that I think there's something like $13,000 spent per pupil in California.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the right number.
There's going to be a ballot initiative that says that any parent who wants to send their kid to an accredited school can get a voucher for $13,000 from the state. That's what's going to be on the ballot.
Competition, let's go.
I predict it will be the big election in California and maybe the nation next year. And I think more than $100 million will be spent on both sides of that thing. And I can't predict it's going to win. I hope it does.
This is a topic worth fighting over. This is something important to fight over.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It's school choice. Because you know what?
Absolutely.
These guys pulled the wool over everybody's eyes. They slip them the Mickey. They hoodwink them. You need choice. We know this as entrepreneurs. If there is no competition, things do not get better. These school unions are complacent.
Well, let's make a resolution. Let's make a New Year's resolution because I think we all agree on this. I got approached about this ballot initiative.
Let's do it.
It's going to happen. There's going to be, like I said, a major ballot initiative next year for school choice in California.
Let's take some all-in summit money and put it towards that.
Let's get behind it.
All-in summit profits we'll put towards this.
Yes, let's do it.